Okay. All right. So just to let you know, just give you a context, this is in a section called The Illusion and the Reality of Love. The Illusion and the Reality of Love. Okay. I'll read. We'll talk. I'll read. We'll talk. Okay. Here we go. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Let me say that again. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. I love that book too, Lynn. So in a lot of teaching, especially New Agey, woo-hoo-y teaching, I'm judging that, I'm just saying, it is implied you need to find love. You need to seek for love. You need to find love, right? And ultimately, you need to find love within yourself. Here, he's saying, no. Your task is not to seek for love. Why would he say that? Your task is merely to find the barriers within yourself to the presence of love. Because from A Course in Miracles' point of view, only love is real. And the only reason that you are not, maybe you are, I'm just assuming, you're not in conscious contact with love, grace, God, source, is that there are barriers within yourself that are keeping you from having that experience. Right? So you don't need to seek for love. You need to try to find love. You don't need to try to work love up inside of you, because love is all there is. That's the only thing that's real. So your task is to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against love. That's the first line. Let me read it one more time. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. It is not necessary to seek for what is true, but it is necessary to seek for what is false. In the beginnings of beginning to wake up, we have a choice. We can either try to manufacture something to try to get something we think we don't have, or we can start to, and this is where in many traditions, especially Eastern philosophies, it talks about peeling the onion, to begin to peel the onion. Another part of the Course in Miracles, it says you have to know the problem before it can be solved. It also says as soon as a problem has occurred, at the exact same moment, the solution is there. So a problem and solution is exactly the same thing, actually. And so ultimately, when he says it is not necessary to seek for what is true, but it is necessary to seek for what is false. So all the barriers you have to experiencing love within yourself, your self-judgment, your anger, your sacrifice, your guilt, your holding yourself to the fire, whatever it happens to be, all of those are barriers that you have created that keep you from seeing, experiencing the true flow of love. Remember, I said this earlier, is that from A Course in Miracles point of view, only love is real. So if only love is real, you don't have to try to find something, right? Okay, let me just stop here and see if anybody wants to say anything or ask anything. Put it in the chat. We'll just take a pause here. Thanks for the reminder, Blossom says. Blossom says, deep. What else? What's this bringing up for anybody? Share what's going on with you. Anything. He says, I feel there's a lot of barriers. Mm-hmm. Yep. There can be. Does that mean because of past hurt, I put up barriers to love? Yes, Kelly. Yes, for sure. The separated self, or the ego from A Course in Miracles, is going to constantly put up stuff to make sure that you do not know that only love is real and that your true nature is love. It's going to make sure that it's going to use anything and everything to create a barrier to what you already are. And then you got to go looking for what you already are. That's the insanity of it all, right? Oh, of course, Claire, unconscious ones. Of course, for sure. There's lots of unconscious ones. Tia says, I don't know once I know it. I don't know once I know it, and then actually trying to change it is confusing and hard. Yeah, you can't change it because you can't change it. Anon says resistances. Yes, resistances to love, or I don't know how to fully love myself. You don't need to know. This is a big misnomer, what I said earlier. Trying to love yourself is a big misnomer, and what you're going to do is you're going to try to love what you think is you, but that's not you. You don't need to love yourself. You don't need to love yourself because only love is real. Because if you're trying to love yourself, it's kind of like saying, I'm convinced I have a hand. Is a hand here? A hand is here. A hand is here. A hand is here. I'm going to convince myself I have a hand. That's exactly the same as trying to love yourself. You have a hand. Love is here. Love is all that is. So trying to love yourself is kind of insane because it's only the egoic mind that's telling yourself you have to love yourself. I have a hand. I have a hand. Do you see a hand? I have a hand. I have a hand. I have a hand. I'm going to convince myself I have a hand. Kelly says, how do you get past this so I can love? What I just said, Kelly. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to get past because all of these barriers are not real. They're all illusions anyway. More confusing than do nothing. Yes. One of the biggest lessons in A Course in Miracles is I need, do, take a deep breath. Okay. It is not necessary to seek what is true. I just said that. It's not necessary to convince yourself you have a hand. It is not necessary to seek for what is true, but it is necessary to seek for what is false. And what is false in this analogy is, I don't have a hand. Where's my hand? What's going on? That's false because you have a hand right in front of your freaking face. Do you understand? So it's important that you go, why wouldn't I believe I have a hand? That's important. That's what we're trying to do here. So every illusion is one of fear, whatever form it takes. So if there's an illusion that you don't have a hand, that's an illusion. You have a hand. This is a great analogy. You have a hand. I mean, unless you don't. Unless you don't have a hand, but you have a nose, or you have hair, or you have something, right? So you're trying to convince yourself that you have a nose when you have a nose, right? So you're trying to convince yourself that's an illusion. That is an illusion. And so you get very fearful. The ego gets fearful because it's afraid to know that you don't need to do anything, that you already have love. It's already here. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to be. You don't have to learn to love someone. I mean, love yourself. You don't need to be anything more. You don't need to do anything else, because that illusion is fear. The ego is fearful of being truthful, right? Whatever form that it takes. Okay? And the attempt to escape from one illusion into another must fail. So the attempt to escape from one illusion to another illusion must fail. So, meaning, okay, let me think of something. It's all an illusion, but anyway. So here's the illusion. I feel bad, because you don't really feel bad, because only love is real. You don't really feel bad, and you're not going to like me saying this, I'm sure of it. The truth of you doesn't feel bad. The truth of you is just love. This is just love going on here. But ultimately, you go, oh, I don't want to feel bad. I'm going to feel good. But then inside you still feel bad, even though you feel good, right? So it's all an illusion anyway, because you're like, oh, I don't want to feel bad. I'm going to feel good. So it's on one, but you still are not connected to the truth that only love is real. So there's no reason to try to feel good or try to feel bad. It's only there and everything is fine. So you exchange one illusion for another illusion, and then ultimately you get screwed, because then what happens is the egoic mind has to always be like, oh, I got to feel better. No, I got to feel better. I got to keep changing states. I got to keep changing states. That's an illusion. That's an illusion. Take a deep breath. I know this is confrontational to people, and it can be really confrontational to people, but just stick with it for a moment. Let me read that last part again. Any attempt to escape from one illusion into another must fail. It will fail. It will fail. There's no doubt about it. If you seek love outside yourself, you can be certain that you perceived hatred within, and you're afraid of it. If you seek love outside yourself, it means you perceived hatred within, and you are afraid of it. Of what? Of love. So, and you're afraid of the hatred too. You're just afraid. So you're like, the relationship's going to give me love because I hate myself. So if I get in a relationship, that will make me have love. I hate myself, or I hate my situation. So maybe, now listen to me, nothing wrong or right about any of this. It's just examples. Okay. So I'm going to get on a spiritual path, and maybe that will make me feel love, right? You feel hatred within, and so you go without to try to find what you think you don't have. It's called projection. It's called projection. Let me read that again, because it's great. If you seek love outside yourself, you can be certain that you perceive hatred within, and you're afraid of it. So you don't want to deal with this hatred thing, because it's like, oh God, oh, someone loved me, or I'll get justification, or I'll get some kind of validation through my work or through something else. Not here already. Take a deep breath. Tia, I'm sorry. Can you read the last bit? I'm not sure which part that was. Let me read this last part. Let me read it all again. If you seek love outside yourself, you can be certain that you perceive hatred within, and you're afraid of it. Yet, peace will never come from the illusion of love, but only from its reality. That's why many people here can attest to this, of course. You thought, oh my God, oh, this is exactly the perfect thing. When you're a kid, or even now, and you're like, oh, on Christmas, or you're going to get a birthday present. You're like, oh, I really want that game. I want that doll. It's going to make me so happy. It's going to be so great. And you get the game and you get the doll and it's really great for 10 minutes. And then you're like, okay, I'm back to my normal. Next thing. Do you understand? So when it says that peace will never come from the illusion of love, but only from its reality, it's an illusion that the job is going to bring you love, that the doll is going to bring you love, that the money is going to bring you love. There's nothing wrong with the doll. There's nothing wrong with the job. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But if you're going for that because you think you're going to get love from it, fail every time. Every time. Take a deep breath. Nina says, so just love. And so just love. Stop myself from what? If you're trying to stop yourself from anything, then you're trying to do something. Right. How do we actually be okay and happy without that stuff? I'm definitely attached to things, even though I try not to be. That's fine. You're not attached to it. Your ego is attached to it. You don't need to be okay and happy. Your ego thinks it needs to be okay and happy. Acceptance of things is just as they are. That's a beginning. That's a beginning. We believe we are a separated self. Another word for the separated self is the ego. We believe we are the ego. We are not the ego. I can't tell you what you are, but you're not the ego. Just love. How does all conditioning and fear not flood us as it might, just because we say love, 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 love? Claire, but the ego has been more than handy. The ego will keep you running around chasing your own tail. Okay, you can put in the chat anything that you want to say. Claire says, but it's just words, word, love, perhaps intellectually, but I don't get how to unfold it daily life, despite my intentions to be kind, loving, because it doesn't operate from that level. It doesn't. You're right, it's just words. In the Course in Miracles, it would say, words are symbols of symbols of symbols of symbols of symbols. By the time you say a word, it is 5 times removed from the source. This is all an energetic. It's not an intellectual concept. It is not a figuring out. It is an energetic paradigm that is not within the separated ego. Claire says, seek what is true, not false. A good pointer towards your own understanding. That's right. If you can identify what's false, the truth, you don't need to identify. It's already there. But then you can start to see, oh, okay, that's false. That's an illusion. That's bullshit. Right? Moment, it could be. The Course in Miracles does talk about revelation. It's a revelation. And a miracle is a shift in your perception. So this is a course in miracles, right? So it's a course in having shifts in your perception, shift in your perception, shift in your perception, shift in your perception, shift in your perception, until you don't even need to shift the perception anymore, until it's all just a miracle. Your whole life is just, I mean, not your life, but life just becomes miraculous. Okay, let me read the whole thing. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. It is not necessary to seek for what is true, but it is necessary to seek for what is false. Every illusion is one of fear. whatever form it takes. And the attempt to escape from one illusion to another must fail. If you seek love outside yourself, you can be certain that you perceive hatred within, and you are afraid of it. Yet peace will never come from the illusion of love, but only from its reality. Take a deep breath.